Aside from the Oklahoma Sooners, Auburn played every team last year that went to the college football playoff, and that included Georgia, in which they faced the Bulldogs twice, beating them in November but losing to them in early December, and that was, of course, for the SEC championship. And Georgia, of course, went on to the college football playoff, and Auburn did not. It was still, though, a double-digit winning season for Gus Malzahn's squad that saw them make it to the Peach Bowl, and it just looked like they were going through the motions in that game, not to take anything away from Central Florida, but the Knights wanted to win the game more, and they beat Auburn that day. But entering this season, Gus Malzahn knows that he's got his quarterback returning, and this guy made a difference last season. And Jarrett Stidham made a big difference because he gave the Tigers that vertical passing game that they were so much looking for, and he delivered. And he delivered as well with over 3,100 yards passing. But I think the one thing that makes Stidham such a terrific QB, one, high completion percentage, had 67% completion percentage, and two, didn't make very many mistakes. 18 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. So terrific decision-making by Stidham, and you get him back. But you don't get back Cameron Petway. You don't get back Kerryon Johnson. And Johnson was the ultimate workhorse for that team. Him and Petway combined for over 1,700 yards rushing and 24 touchdowns. Big-time productivity that you don't have back. But you do get back Cam Martin. Martin did average over 6 yards per carry. He'll become their top back, and he had a little more than 400 yards on the ground. The receivers, well, quite a few returned. Ryan Davis should be all SEC, 84 catches in 2017, 5 touchdowns, over 800 yards receiving. Darius Slayton's also back for War Eagle, 5 touchdowns as well, and over 600 yards receiving. However, a little bit of bad news during the spring as both Eli Stove and Will Hastings suffered serious knee injuries. Who knows if and when that twosome will be back. But Nate Craig Myers, who played a little bit, is going to play a lot at wideout in 2018, of course, largely because of the absence of both Stove and Hastings. Auburn had a veteran offensive line in 2017 that did a fine job. It was predominantly senior-led, so as you can imagine, a lot of players to replace entering 2018. And you do get Mike Horton back at right guard. And the left tackle, who was part-time last season, who will be moved to full-time, Prince Tega Wanagaho. So you get him back too. Auburn last season was 4th in the SEC in scoring, 34 points per game. And again, it was a team that did not have a lot of turnovers. Well, once again, Kevin Steele put together a hard-as-nails type defense in which they were top 5 in the SEC in just about every significant category, including points allowed per game, only 18.5 per contest, which was 3rd best in this very difficult conference to play in. Most of the front 7 does come back, including 3 of the 4 on a defensive line that's one of the best in college football. Marlon Davidson, you get him back at one end. You do have to replace the other guy, though, in Jeff Holland, who had 10 sacks. But you do get back both tackles who had terrific 2017s. Derek Brown, 6'3", 325, last season put together a 57-tackle season, including 3 sacks. And then Dontavius Russell at the nose tackle spot, 6.5 tackles for loss. So the Auburn defensive line, I think, will continue to be the strength of this D. But don't forget about those linebackers, inside linebacker in Deshaun Davis, all SEC-type player, 82 stops a year ago, and helping him on the outside, Darrell Williams, with 57 stops. Secondary is where they saw the most amount of turnover entering this season because you lose both Trey Matthews and Stephen Roberts at the safety positions, both trying to make it in the NFL. But you do get Jeremiah Denson at a free safety who played quite a bit, had 47 tackles, and Daniel Thomas will now step in at strong safety. And the corner, well, you got to replace Carlton Davis. He was a good one. So Jamel Dean will try to fill some big shoes on one side. And at the other corner, Javaris Davis, who had 2 interceptions. And speaking of picks, interceptions has not been a forte for Auburn recently, but it used to be. 4 years ago, they had 22 interceptions. Then it went down to 14 the following year. And then 11 2 years ago. Last year, only 6. 6 interceptions, including 0 in 8 of the final 9 games. So there's an area where Auburn can try to take advantage of, get better as far as interceptions. They did force fumbles, though. They had 13 fumble recoveries, but again, only half a dozen picks. Special teams, 3 points was usually a given anytime Daniel Carlson place kicked, but he's moved on. We'll see if his younger brother, Anders, can handle the position as a freshman. Looking at the Auburn schedule, I think it's one of the toughest in college football. Yeah, playing Washington at the beginning of the season, that alone would suggest that. At least you don't have to travel as far for this game as the Huskies will. The matchup at Atlanta, I think Washington's got a good shot at getting to the college football playoff. The SEC opener, that's at home against LSU. And then a critical road game in early October against Mississippi State. I think the Bulldogs are an SEC West contender. Then the schedule looks fairly manageable until you get to mid-November, where 2 of the final 3 games are against the 2 teams that played in last year's national championship game, and you have to play them both away from home. Georgia, November 10th, and, of course, defending national champion Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Auburn will try to beat Alabama in back-to-back seasons for the first time since the Tommy Tuberville era, when War Eagle beat Alabama 6 straight seasons from 2002 to 2007. Once again, I do like the quarterback, and the defensive line is one of the best in the game. However, losing both Kerryon Johnson, the running back, as well as the bulk of that offensive line sucks. What also sucks for Auburn, playing too many difficult games away from home. So, I've got Auburn picked 3rd in the very difficult SEC West. That's my look at the Auburn Tigers. See you next time.